The year is 2025, and if you're actually paying attention, the echoes aren't just coming back from history, they're starting to scream. The same patterns, the same psychological delusion, the same blind faith that preceded the single most destructive financial collapse in modern history is back again. Most people look at rising stock markets and think wealth, think safety, think prosperity. But the smart money sees something very different. They see 1929 playing on repeat. When people imagine the Great Depression, they picture breadlines, dust storms, and black and white misery. But the real story wasn't the crash itself. It was everything that created the perfect bomb before the crash. The Roaring Twenties weren't just jazz, parties, flappers, and rebellion. It was the largest financial hallucination the world had ever seen. A bubble so huge and so intoxicating, the country convinced itself the party would never end. Sound familiar? Here is what should actually terrify you. Every single core warning signal that flashed red before the 1929 crash is flashing red right now in 2025. Wealth inequality at extreme records, speculation taking over real investing, cheap money turning into entitlement, governments desperately trying to keep the machine alive, even if they have to burn the future to do it. We are not heading toward a repeat of history. We are living inside it. Let me paint a picture of America in 1928. Stocks had been rising non-stop for nearly 10 years. Everyone from shoeshine boys to wealthy industrialists was trading stocks. Credit flowed like water. People bought stocks with 10% down and borrowed the rest. They genuinely believed prosperity was now a permanent feature of the universe. Newspapers called it the new economy. Politicians claimed downturns were now obsolete because technology had permanently transformed the world. Does this sound familiar? It should, because it's the exact same delusion playing out right now. In the 1920s, the Federal Reserve kept interest rates artificially low. Banks handed out loans with zero discipline. Speculation wasn't discouraged, it was celebrated. Americans believed markets could not fall because entire generations had never witnessed what a real crash actually feels like. Today, we've had almost 14 years of near-zero rates globally. Money was so cheap for so long that entire industries exist only because credit was free. Venture capital pours billions into companies that have never produced a real profit. Crypto speculation makes 1920s margin trading look boring. And just like 1929, anyone who warns that this can end badly gets mocked as a pessimist who doesn't get the new paradigm. But here's the part that should keep you awake tonight. The wealth gap today is far worse than it was in 1929. In the late 1920s, the top 1% held around 23% of wealth. Today, it's more than 32%. Wealth concentration is now beyond anything the robber barons could even have imagined. This matters because an economy collapses not when the rich stop spending, but when the middle class can't sustain consumption anymore. And globally, the middle class is drowning in debt while assets are priced completely out of reach. In 1929, Americans borrowed to the edge. Margin calls destroyed them when prices started falling. Today, the leverage is different, but it's everywhere. Corporate debt is record high. Government debt is record high. Consumer debt is record high. Student loans, credit cards, mortgages people can barely survive under. The entire modern system is built on this delusion that tomorrow will always be better than today. Central bankers promise soft landings. Politicians promise new spending will magically create prosperity. Tech founders claim AI valuations justify infinite multiples. The same arrogance, the same denial, the same blindness to the one rule of markets. What goes up can, and always eventually does, come down. But here is the darker difference. In 1929, most Americans still had independent survival capability. They lived in towns, they had land, they had practical skills. Today, We are totally dependent on supply chains, on digital systems, on confidence. When confidence breaks, collapse won't just be financial, it will be civilizational. The smart money already knows this. Billionaires are buying farmland. Central banks are quietly accumulating gold while telling the public gold is outdated. Congressional insider trading is at record levels. People with access to real information are already positioning for the next phase. Meanwhile, the public is fed the same story Americans heard in 1928. Everything is under control. The economy is strong. Technology will save us. Trust the institutions. But here's the truth they won't say out loud. The very tools they use to fight past crises, QE, money printing, zero rates, bailouts, didn't fix the system. They just made the bubble bigger. Now the consequences will be worse than 1929. Back then the bubble was mostly stocks. Today the bubbles are everywhere. Real estate priced beyond affordability, bond markets artificially propped up by central banks, crypto markets swinging trillions from memes, private equity unicorns valued on pure imagination, and everything is now interconnected. One crack anywhere can cascade globally within hours. When the selling begins, AI trading will accelerate the crash at speeds that would shock the 1920s. And unlike 1929, we're starting from a foundation already rotten with debt and moral hazard. Look around quietly beneath the headlines. Commercial real estate is collapsing. Regional banks are sitting on underwater losses they can't admit. Pension funds are gambling desperately because they know the math cannot work anymore. The system is cracking. The social contract is cracking. Trust in institutions is already the lowest in modern history. When the next crash hits, it won't just be an economic collapse, it will be a civilizational collapse. Yet those in power are doing exactly what they did in 1929, deny reality and double down on the lies. But history doesn't care. Reality always breaks through. In 1929, when the illusion finally shattered, the Dow lost nearly half its value in weeks. Fortunes built over generations vanished almost instantly, and that was without global derivatives, without 24/7 markets, without algorithmic triggers. Today will be far more brutal, because this time it's not just Wall Street that's overleveraged, it's the entire planet. Every checklist the world ignored before 1929 is being checked again in 2025. Euphoria? Check. Denial? Check. Policymakers mocking warnings? Check. People borrowing against assets they assume only go up? Check. The script is already written. The stage is already set. Most people will still pretend they never saw it coming. History doesn't repeat perfectly, but if you ignore it, it will crush you exactly the same. The crash is coming. The only real question, which side of it will you be on? If this opened your eyes, subscribe. History has the answers most people refuse to look at. And before you click away, remember this very clearly. Every major financial catastrophe in history was obvious in hindsight, but invisible to the majority right before it hit. You do not need to predict the exact day or week. You only need to recognize when a system has already crossed the irreversible threshold. We are there. Learn, prepare, understand the patterns before they crush you. Because this channel is for people who refuse to sleepwalk into a disaster others will pretend was unexpected. Like the video, share this with someone who believes markets only go up. Subscribe if you want more financial history decoded like a weapon. Comment below. Do you think 2025 becomes the new 1929? And if yes, what breaks first?